How's it going, man?
Oh, it's been a day.
Yeah, it looks
Uh,
like you just came out of the shit end of a. I, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. You don't look good.
yeah, I was dealing with last night. Like, it's mostly like Bankus's fiance is just like being mad at him, and like he's like,
Ah,
I have to give him. He's like a ref. He's like my
don't
son
say
that I'm
that.
taking care.
Just stop. Just stop. Don't even say it. That's too private. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
Yeah,
You look
I'm
fine.
just caught in the middle of some fucking bullshit on this, and
You look
that's my
beautiful.
day.
Never mind. You look fine. You look perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah. So how's it going, man?
Oh, good. I've been doing stand up again.
Yes, yes, I've been seeing you like getting a little more action, like your guys' videos, so many of them, and just popping off. Like you're a regular fucking content creator now. Like it's amazing.
I know. I gotta and the fucking off camera broke and the audio and things. Still have to get that out. There's so much to do. So much to do. So many people to either yell at or make laugh or do
Yeah.
both.
Okay. Well, so I just want to say then, so let's get this thing started. So what we have today is Daniel Bordman. He is the writer and editor of the National Telegraph, comedian, hilarious skit comic, in my opinion. Basically, the next Mr. Bean. We've got him on the podcast today. So yeah, thanks for coming, man. So basically, what we're here today for, episode 63, by the way. What we're here today mostly to talk about is Canadian politics a little bit because it's popping off. But then we've also got this town hall meeting with Trump. But what do you? So what do you want to talk about first? Do you have anything in particular that you're interested in?
I mean, I stick to Canadian things. Like I just skim the Trump thing. It's like, yeah, Trump yelled at CNN, so everyone's like, yeah, they suck. Trump great. And then Trump also said like ridiculous things that like upper middle class white people don't agree with. So CNN's like, see, he's a monster. And so no one's opinions change. Like Trump was Trump and CNN was CNN. That's as far as I think. But
Well,
yeah,
I have to
well,
say,
Canada no longer exists. We're a province of China. And
yep,
hand in your vaccine passports or something, and you'll get it. We'll chip them in your arm, and there'll be a social credit score, and you'll have an ESG score and digital currency, and everything will be great, and everyone will be happy. You'll
sure.
own nothing.
Yeah. So hey, so I watched that episode 21 of the Bankish show with you on it there for the whole episode. That was pretty good, pretty entertaining. I have to say, I was
Oh, thank
smiling
you.
the whole episode. How
As
is
we
your
learned about Bankus's crippling gambling addiction.
Yeah, dude, that is so funny. He needs to keep doing that. Like, just pretend whether he is or he isn't. Just keep pretending that he's a gambling addict. That's fucking hilarious.
We were
Uh,
at a show. I'll give you. We were in Burlington last night, Burlington Yucks, and he was hosting. And I saw like he was like just like on roulette, but like as like one comic was getting up to go back to host, I saw him like on the thing, like spinning the roulette wheel in his phone. It's one of the things I'm trying to stop. Is like no phone roulette. Kids at home, stop playing roulette on your phones.
so,
So
so
that's my life.
how is your return to stand up been? Can you tell me about that a little bit?
Yeah, it's fun. Like there's a bit of old stuff that I have memorized, but I want to phase that out. And it's like weird because you know I do what I do during the day, and it's like the it's fun. Like it. I just have to I need to do it more and like learn to get into it and like figure out new material and like learn how to explain to people in a concise way that like I'm like Canadian diet Ben Shapiro. Maybe that's just the best way to say it. Is just like get in like that's my job and
That's exactly what
just
you are, dude. You clearly know your shtick perfectly. Yeah.
yeah. So I got to like get the on board the audience because like I have like funny stuff. It's just like sometimes it's a bit shocking for them to get into. Like not many people relate to like that. Oh, there's some. Has anyone ever had a show on Indian television before? Huh? You know when you're working at a Pakistani pro-India television show, and yeah, like so. But it's fun. I'm having fun. I'm making jokes about things, and
Yeah, I mean, I
it's
guess
just
you don't have to pigeonhole your material. I don't mean to give you any advice because, again, I'm not a
yeah,
stand-up comedian, but I do write jokes a lot. I got a lot of jokes, and I'm an avid fan, so I feel like I can help a little bit. But I feel like you don't have to pigeonhole your material at all. I feel like you should just talk about anything.
yeah. It's what I do. But like also like you need to make money doing stand up, and like you need to in order to make money, you have to do something else that isn't stand up. So I want to keep doing the National Telegraph and all that. So it's like eventually I have to come to terms with the fact that most, like, if you're going to be successful, people have to know who you are going in, and like people eventually will know. Oh, or at least half the audience would know, like, okay, this guy fucking yells at Justin Trudeau for during the day he yells at Trudeau, and then at night he like has fun.
Yeah.
So
What was
it's
your what was your last favorite article that you wrote with your National Telegraph? Like, what's some of the
favorite.
things that you're writing about currently with that? Like, what's the last thing you published, or what's your last favorite thing?
Okay, I can't remember the last thing I punished public. I did a quick one this week on like the. I remember the face, the passport thing, but like I wouldn't say that's a favorite. Like a good recent one, somewhat recent one that I like that I'm proud of is the passport. What like and stuff like that's transient. I did want a good one on gender ideology that the turfs really like me for. I'm making some good turf friends. I think it's is gender ideology about to collapse, and I sort of do a what was happening in the UK at the time, but also like here's like the roots of this whole um, you know pseudo Marxist gender ideology stuff. Here's who it's based on. Here's how it falls apart. Here's where the rubber meets the road, and how it's losing politicians their jobs once people come in contact to it. And like, so that's my if I'm gonna be like, yo, here's an article I wrote that's worth reading that you're like, oh, that was worth my time, and that would be one comes to mind that I enjoyed writing. I put a good amount of effort in. I think I hit stuff like, and there's other things but it's like it's niche. It's like, do you care about like this particular? Do you care about like Israel Palestine? Do you care about Iran? Do you care about India? Whatever. And like, not everyone does, but I think most people in like the culture war are like, yeah, why are the kids just chopping their dicks off? That's a bit strange, right? That's a
Yeah.
bit more relatable to everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Do you,
you
do you
remember when
think?
we were kids, like we would just like hang out with our buddies, smoke weed at the ravine, and like chop our dicks off.
Oh, yeah, definitely not. Definitely not.
No, come on.
So,
I guess you didn't grow up in Toronto, but
so do you think? So, because I've been talking about this lots actually. I just had a long conversation, episode 62 with Thomas that's coming out this Wednesday. We had a long talk about gender ideology, and do you think that like what? So, because I've been trying to come up with counter arguments. I know there's these obvious ones where it's biology or whatever, but like what do you think is the best counter argument to why genderology ideology is important?
yeah, okay. So I mean, I think it's a very very good question because there are so many like scientific counter arguments. Like the entire thing is built on the flimsiest house ever. Like I mean, I go into like the original experiment done by John Money where he discovers gender and not sex. It failed, right? He said I can change. There's twins, one had a bad circumcision. I can turn one to a girl, one to a boy with behavioralism, and nothing. It's all behavior, no genetics. And it failed. The kids were horribly abused and committed suicide.
Yeah,
It
they
was a
talked about
small
that
sample.
study in What is a Woman with Matt Walsh, right?
Yeah, yeah, okay. So it's the original study is a sample size of 2, so it's not even valid.
Yeah, yeah,
But
the
then
twins.
is a catastrophic failure and is treated like he discovered this, like he's the Isaac Newton of gender or whatever.
Yeah,
So in itself, like when you break it down scientifically, like it doesn't stand up. Like no one seriously is like believing the science and like logic and goes down to it. Like this is emotional attachment to like it's a political ideology, right? Or I mean, I've joked about it being a religion, but
gender being a religion.
like the gender ideal, like it was a joke. It's one of the new things I'm doing on stage now. Is like I love religions, Islam, Christianity, Hinduism, transgenderism, all of them. But okay, so my point though is what attaches people to gender ideology in a serious way is it's the perception that this is the arc of progress. This is the future. I am on the good team. I am using my white privilege or straight privilege or whatever allyship to pave the way for the transgender people, which are the most horribly abused people since 15 minutes ago when I discovered them. The way you undermine this is you have to explain to people and show them like, okay, what is actually happening? So what are you doing to the kids? Like this is actually a eugenics program when you break it down for gay and autistic kids. Like this is, it's not like the intention is completely different than what 20th century dictators did in terms of eugenics, but the result is the same.
I agree.
We are primarily, we're taking a kid in middle school who likes wearing pink shirts and is a bit frilly and silly, and you shouldn't make fun of that kid for being gay and don't bully him and throw him to a locker and that's mean or whatever. But this kid's probably gay,
Can I
right?
interrupt? Can I interrupt really quick? It's almost like, to put it like plainly, it's almost like they've found a way to, okay, so rather than giving, so like a gay person, for example, I'm not saying this is what they're looking for. I'm not saying that they're not gay and just like that's just how they are. But I'm saying that what they're looking for a lot of the time is attention and love. It seems like what they've done is they've hijacked that, where it's like they're looking for a contrarian version of that. Yet if you don't give it to them, if you continue to affirm a young gay kid, or a, let's say, an Asperger's or autistic kid,
Yeah.
they will continue that until they find what they're looking for, which is disagreement, contrarian. And if they don't find it, they'll keep going. So essentially, it's like a way where we flipped it, where they will take it to the point where they'll castrate themselves, like what you were saying, and how it becomes a psychological eugenics in a way.
Yeah, because it's like it's so highly rewarded. Like being gay is out. Like no one cares if you're gay anymore. Like
Exactly.
anyone can be gay,
Exactly.
right? And that problem solved, right? But trans now, like that's the oh, there's going to be a lot of Instagram likes and social credit, social feedback, and like that's what pushes people down. I think you hit the nail on the head there with the contrarianism. I mean, queer theory, which is it's the same thing as whatever, but queer theory in itself, if you look at, queer theory is basically just pushed, and the central thesis is like anything that is subversive is good, right? It's just like, heteronormative, whatever, white patriarchy, blah, 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 blah is the norm. It's bad. It does colonialism, all the radical leftist mumbo jumbo. Therefore, to subvert it is a value in itself. So being any type of, queer theory, just like anything that's not the norm is therefore good. And you just must be subversive. Right. And this is why a lot of the queer theory, like founders, like they're all supporting love is love between adults and non-adults, to put it lightly. All the major founders said, because if you just have the value that subversion is good, right, then someone's going to take advantage of this and be like, yeah, I believe in queer theory and we ought to subvert these norms of ageist thought that we don't treat, we discriminate against 10-year-olds by saying they're not smart. 10-year-olds are smart. I know a very smart 10-year-old, therefore they can make decisions. And you're like,
Yeah, it's like
I see
he
where
made
this is
the, yeah,
going.
this kid made the decision they wanted to have sex with me. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, you see why, like, and you don't want to be like one of those guys, because it's not true that like, all transgender people are pedophiles and it's just a pedophile agenda, blah, 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 blah. But you have to understand, like, when you're creating loopholes for bad people and bad actors, like there are some pedophiles. And if you are a pedophile and you're not using queer theory and like modern gender ideology and like their talking points, you're a crazy person. Because like this is the best way to advocate for like we're a sexual minority. You get into the real trans stuff because of the big thing of the trans thing is like kids can be trans, and if kids can make decisions, right? Because kids can't join the army, kids can't smoke, kids can't drive, right? Because there's a legal limit, and kids can't consent to sex because they're not old enough to handle this. Although they might understand what it is. I'm sure most 14-year-old boys understand like what sex is, but they're not emotionally mature enough to get into a physical relationship with an adult, right? And we all understand that as adults, and a 14-year-old boy doesn't. He's like, I want to, I want to get with my teacher. She's hot, right? But he's an idiot, right?
You
He's an
should do more
idiot.
impressions on stage of teenage boys. That's funny, dude.
Teenage boys.
You're
And
oh, 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 oh. That's funny.
yeah, right. And then we freak out, rightfully so, when it's like 14-year-old girls and like adult men, because we understand like, okay, bad things gonna happen there. But yeah, like if you just say like, oh, kids, like, right, if a 12-year-old boy or girl is adult and mature enough to make a decision to go on cross-sex hormones or puberty blockers, which is a major life decision, then why aren't they allowed to consent to a night of fun with their 50-year-old neighbor?
It's a slippery slope. Hey,
Yeah.
slippery slope. So, so basically, what I wanted to ask you about, to get into one of the major topics now, if you don't mind, it would be to do with that thing to do with Michael Chong, and he's basically a Canadian politician who was in danger a little bit because of some Chinese nationalists in Canada. correct? Or if you could fill me in.
Yeah, we have a big problem with this in Canada, and it's not just the Chinese. The Chinese are probably the biggest thing we're talking about right now. So Michael Chong is like a bigger name in the Conservative Party. He's like the Conservative Party. He's run for leader before. He's a red Tory, right? So I think this is kind of important. He is as close to what a perfect conservative the liberals would want us to be, right? What the liberals say, oh, I mean, why can't the conservatives be reasonable? This like Michael Chong ran on a carbon tax platform, the Islamophobia motions, like all, Michael Chong is willing to give a bit of ground to like eco nonsense and social justice, whatever. But he has principles, right? He is in some ways conservative. He's a red Tory. He's part of the like it's not a secret, right? So he's principled, and I think he has good foreign policy. I mean, I'm just going to some domestic, but he's of Chinese descent, but he supports Canada, and he's a Western man through and through. He believes in like Canada, America, the European, like our alliances, personal freedom, freedom of expression. China is not honoring its deal on Hong Kong, and they're abrasive on Taiwan, and China likes to throw temper tantrums on anyone who comes after them. So Michael Chong's been pretty consistent. Genocide is bad. China can't genocide Uyghur Muslims. Hong Kong should have freedom, right? Can't Taiwan should not be bombed, right? The three big no-nos. And so he stood up in Parliament and did this, and he had to like cut off contact with his family because he has to speak out against China because he doesn't want to put them in danger because he knows they're listening, whatever. But now we've learned that there was a campaign to harass Michael Chong and his family. And it was facilitated in part by someone who held diplomatic status in Canada. And this is really bad. I mean, I know this because, again, I'm in these communities, like the Iranian community, Chinese dissidents. I know these people. And in Canada, they get harassed a lot more. Like we have these Chinese police stations. In Canada, we do nothing about them. I've heard tons of stories of like Chinese dissidents who get like harassed, have like dead rats put in their mailbox to intimidate
Just
them
for
and
the
stuff like
average
that.
listener, what is a Chinese dissident?
Yeah, so this would be someone who doesn't agree with the CCP. So if you leave China and you're not pro-government, right? So if you come out and you're openly critical of the Chinese government, if you're like, it's authoritarian, I don't like the social credit system, anything like that, like you become a dissident, persona non grata. Like if you went back to China, you get arrested and thrown in. Like your family might be losing social credit points for being like, having been near you. So, dissident is generally people who, when there's authoritarian regimes and people who publicly disagree, like, again, I have Iranian friends who are former refugees. You would call them dissidents. And like, again, one of them, I have a friend from Iran who was murdered in Toronto in 2020. And in extremely suspicious circumstances. And he was like a really nice guy. So it's not like he was, in that thing and he was taken out of his house. Karima Baloch, who is, like there's Pakistan is oppressing this minority called the Baloch people, Balochistan in Pakistan. It's like, it goes back 70 years. You don't need to know the thing, but a key Baloch activist in 2021, I believe, Karima Baloch, she was in Canada. She got to Canada and she was happy. She was speaking out and she was drowned and thrown in the river. And this is common of the ISI, the Pakistani CIA. That's a common way they've taken out dissidents all around the world. And the Toronto police said, oh, this is a suicide. So she like strangled herself and then threw herself in the river, like just came like a leading human rights activist who was speaking out. I don't believe that. Like, and the police are just like, yeah, it looks like a suicide. And it's like, none of this looks like a suicide. Like, and you talk to police detectives, they're like, yeah, I don't know how we can rule this as suicide. But someone politically was like, yeah, we're not going to look into the murder of a civil rights leader in Canada. And, we would scream if a black civil rights leader, a BLM activist, was in Canada and then got assassinated by someone who didn't like their politics. It would be the biggest story in all of the world. But this woman's just, yeah, she's from Pakistan. I don't really know what Balochistan is. Like, yeah, she's talking about human rights and freedom and girls should go to school and all that type of stuff. And she was like literally murdered by an intelligence service in our biggest city. Yeah. And we just shrugged it off. And like, this is this type of stuff that's now coming to a head with we're starting to cover a lot of this on China, and China's doing this, but like, this is why I said, like, this story's not going away. Like we haven't scratched the surface of the tip of the iceberg on foreign interference in Canadian politics. Cause I've been looking into this stuff for years and I've been trying to scream at whoever listens. And and it's just been met with apathy. But now we've hit the thing where there's some evidence, and someone in CSIS finally got fed up and said, okay, I'm leaking this to Robert Fife here, so like here's what's going on in CSIS and the RCMP, and like we're doing nothing. We all know what's happening. Like this is another thing. It's like everyone
Yeah.
knows it's happening in CSIS, but everyone also knows that the political members of the intelligence, so high-ranking RCMP officers, high-ranking CSIS officers, like where we get to where they become politicians and not, intelligence officers. That's when there's a complete disconnect in Canada. So the rank and file RCMP CSIS are actually pretty good at their jobs and care. It's just when it gets sent up the ladder to get signed up, it all falls apart when it gets to the government. So we've known that
Oh.
for years.
So do you
And
think
now,
that did you think that they will accomplish like any type of large scale deportations of these people that are all suspected? Like with what Michael Chong is, that's what he wants to do. Is he wants to get all the people that he suspects. Like he's essentially lobbying to make a list where everybody he says he wants gone, they're just gone. And is that you think that's going to
I
happen?
don't see the Liberal Party doing it. The Liberal
Yeah,
Party is too tied in with China. Now, yes, you can go back in time and say Stephen Harper was too open on China. And yes, Stephen Harper, he had his biggest foreign policy blunder was his blind spot on China, thinking that, old school thinking, right? If we just normalize and we let them throw money at us, and we there's like they'll be our friends and we'll have trade. And like, no, they're still trying to push their like vendetta
yeah,
for the opium war against the white people. Like we're at an impasse with the CCP.
yeah.
That being said, the Conservative Party, I can see the only party that would have some, like, they would have to run on this and they'd want to seem like tough on this. The Conservative Party also is pretty anti-Islamic Republic of Iran, opposed to liberals. So again, they would want, there's a lot of, they have a lot of money laundering assets and, terrorist groups that they enable in Canada. Like they front Hezbollah, and like 4 years ago, there was two guys arrested who were spying on Pearson Airport and like doing logistics for Hezbollah.
Let me tell you my quick theory. One, sorry to interrupt. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. That's more or less the gist of what you're trying to say there. I'll say one little part, and then I got another thing. Is that I feel like motivations of, and this might be totally bullshit, like just wrong, right? But my little sliver of information on this is because you know that foreign home buying policy is just coming to an end this year, right? And
Mhm.
because of all the migration, like we're going to have a lot of people wanting to buy homes, a lot of foreigners wanting to buy homes, especially Chinese people. Like people say now that in Vancouver, basically it's all owned by Chinese people, basically.
Yeah.
So I feel like they might be using this to extend that home buying ban to Chinese people for longer, just for that purpose. I wonder. I thought maybe that might have some relevance.
Yeah, I mean, that's something. I mean, we have terrible housing policies in Canada, so I could say populist thing to ban foreign home buyers. Like it's part of the problem. Like this drives me so crazy. Like Texas has massive immigration. Like people always come to Texas, but land is cheap in Texas because Texas is one of the few places on earth that understand that housing is a supply demand issue. Like as what like they don't limit supply. It's not hard to build. The zoning laws aren't crazy. Like you can build things near other things. Like,
Yeah,
oh, we can't have a pizza shop within 500 meters of a school if there's also an apartment building unless
yeah,
it's like
yeah.
that's Toronto.
Regulations are so stupid. Yeah. So
Right.
yeah. So
So if
to get off of some of the politics stuff, you got anything else there?
yeah, my point is just like with the liberals and like we love populist bullshit when it comes to housing. That instead of just saying supply and demand, build more houses, dumb, and like stop attacking landlords and like we're gonna tax them 4,000%, because then they're like, okay, well we're not gonna rent and we're just gonna turn this into mega expensive condos for rich Chinese people because they can pay us and then leave us alone. Like I'm not
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So
That's exactly
like
right.
they always count on the Canadians to do the worst thing when it comes to housing. That's my shtick.
Yeah, fair enough, man. Fair enough. So yeah, to get off of the politics just a little bit, I guess. Just I've got a couple of things on my list here that are kind of funny, like on the right hand side of things, to get your opinion on, other than just the Trump thing. Did you see the coronation at all? Do you care much about that, or
No, I mean, I saw some
and
like
did
I'm
you
not
hear
gonna
that they're going to
watch
put
that. Like,
Camila on the money? What do you think about that?
sorry,
Did you hear that they're going to put Camila on the money? What do you think about
Camille
that?
on the money. She can't be like get the king on. I keep Elizabeth. Keep
I
her
think
a
so
spot.
too. Yeah, like
Yeah,
they're
like
so old. Why switch all the money at this point? You know?
yeah, like why do it? Keep the other queen. She was cool. Like I guess it's cool. Like the current monarch is on our money. Like that's whatever. But like I don't know. Keep the old queen. You
Do you think
know,
there's
you can
any
have a limited
value in a
edition
royal
Princess.
family?
Hmm?
Do you think
Yeah.
there's any value in a royal family in a democracy?
Yes. Yes.
Now, tell me your opinion
Um,
on that.
so I hate the royals. I find them boring. I don't like them when they're on TV and they annoy me. And but I don't read tabloids, so that's for other people, so they could do it. I just don't engage. Right? It's like, oh, I don't like watching baseball, so I don't watch baseball. I'm not like banned baseball. The value of the monarchy is it is good to have a symbol of national identity and unity that is sort of above your government.
Yes,
And the
absolutely.
right.
That dude,
So it's
I've been, my last podcast again. Sorry, just we had talked about this for 5 or 10 minutes. I tried to summarize what you just said in one sentence. Exactly that. Like that is exactly it.
yeah.
So
So
sorry,
there's
please
there's
keep
that.
going.
Yeah. So it gives us that, and also like being part of the British Commonwealth now, it gives us certain things. Like it's easier to deal with Australia, New Zealand, England, like the Commonwealth. Like there's Commonwealth games, like intertrade. Like there's a symbol of unity that binds us to Australia, New Zealand, and these other countries where now it's easier to like we have a legal thing where we can be like, okay, for Commonwealth it's in there, right? We don't need to get someone in from Australia, New Zealand to work visas should be easier than it is from almost any other country. And the answer to that is we're pretty similar culturally, like in terms of like health and consumption. We have the same language and pretty similar history. Like we fought together in World War I, and it was like Monash and Curry, and we were the Anzacs and the Canadians are sort of broke off and from the British Empire, and over the last 100 years we developed the thing. So like it makes sense that again, like it's easier to integrate someone from Australia to Canada or vice versa than it is from Somalia,
Yeah,
right? Just right, it's
it's
simpler.
like
And I'm not saying no Somalians. I'm just saying like it streamlines everything,
for
right? If you
sure.
have these sort of Commonwealth and alliances. Also, it's like because we're in the Commonwealth and like there's 40 other countries in the Commonwealth, that's just like an easy, quick alliance with 40 other countries,
Do you think
right?
so? Let me just branch this off of
Yeah.
because in my curiosities here. So in Canada, so my questions are is so like number one, what's the biggest problem in so Canada is basically a British democracy, but it's not in the sense that we don't have the royal family. Um, so, what's the biggest problem going on right now in Canadian democracy? If you could summarize it quickly, and then also, do we need a royal family like that red haired dude there and his actress wife from that lawyer show? Like,
Oh yeah,
do
yeah,
we
yeah.
need to give them a castle in Canada and try to start that, or is there any value in that? And so those are my two
No,
questions.
I don't think there's any value in like a new because it would be a silly thing. It's like right, like the British crown being under that, like the Magna Carta was signed in like 1215. Like that's a monumental piece of legislation in human history, and that's about like the crown giving up power to the people, and there in all the different iterations of that. Like the British monarchy has been sort of like phased out of like absolute monarchy status and into this sort of symbolic monarchy, and that's sort of the history that has value, where you say, okay, we're sort of part of this Commonwealth. And I think again, like so you could say, yeah, part of it is this symbol of national unity, there's something beyond Canada that is old. But if we start a new monarchy tomorrow, you kind of lose that, right? It's a symbol of like who Justin Trudeau picked, right? Who picks the royal family? Like,
But
are we gonna
what it
is the
would be there? Like it's the same royal family that we bring over here. Because like so basically in Western democracies, I feel like
oh,
our
like
setup where we're making celebrities into royalty isn't really working. Oh, I think I lost.
make Harry king of
Yes, I'm losing connection on you.
Canada?
Just 1 second. 1 second. If you, I'm not sure if you can see me. Just 1 second.
Good on me, but I can see you now. It's not great, but you're back.
Yeah, use the oven. Hey, can you see me? Just a second here.
Yeah.
1 second. We had an internet problem on our end, and it should be getting better. Okay, 1 second. Your video is all blurry. Just a second. 1 second. Okay, is it shut off? Yeah, just like, heat up the oven and put it in there. Sorry, we lost our connection. Fuck, I'm gonna have to edit that out. Okay, I got your video back again. All right, we're good.
All right, we
Sorry,
back.
there's this thing you can turn on in our house that fucks up the whole internet, and somebody turned it on. So
That's a good. That's a good button to have. The fuck up the entire internet button.
no doubt, right? Like it's like, but it's a price to pay for like a really fancy. It's like a fancy microwave. It's like an inverter type microwave that it just fucks up all internet signals. Like it's crazy. Sorry,
Fair
man.
enough.
Okay, you started getting blurry there about 20 or 30 seconds ago. Can you just jump back right to what you were saying
Yeah,
there?
I think we're talking about having a Canadian specific monarchy, like making
Yes.
Harry King of Canada.
Yes.
No, I think I don't think that has that much value. Like I think you
No.
also lose out on the fact that part of the value is like having the same monarch as the Australians, right? Because then that's the alliance, or like, and there's certain Caribbean countries that you
But
can
you
have.
don't think it. Okay, so to come back to the other question that I asked you, because I want to connect them, because maybe it will help you see the value that I feel it might have, is that the biggest problem I think that's happening in Western democracies right now is that basically, like if you look at America or if you look at Canada, everybody hates Trudeau, right? Isn't that? It's pretty much the gist. Even the people on the left, they don't really talk about how they love Trudeau. They're just on the left. Everybody is hating either the president or the prime minister in both of our countries. So we need to fix that. And I feel like that comes from diverting some of that hate towards the royal family. Like I feel like that is part of their utility, is taking some of that hate. So
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah. I agree. I
okay,
agree. I think that's another
oh,
utility
I'm
where
so
they
glad I
can
can
be an outlet
convince you of
of.
that. So yeah, I see that as a potential value, but okay, so yeah, that's my answer for the biggest problem with Western democracy is everybody is hating on the leader right now, and it's causing a lot of instability and untrust, and it's just like
Yeah,
it's not
I
that we're not
think.
getting anything done in legislation, but it's like it would be better if people stopped pretending that Trudeau was some sort of king. He's just the prime minister, and having that royal family have dominion over them, it changes the way the citizenry views them. I think there's a lot of value in
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Right? Like
And
imagine,
again, it's
dude, like
purely
so,
symbolic.
like for example, like imagine what happened with Liz Truss, with how she
Yeah, yeah.
came in and then
Everyone left.
like if that happened in Canada, there would be unrest amongst the public about and distrust towards the prime minister. In the UK, nobody really cared because there's so much stability provided. So
Yeah,
I feel like that's
I
a
can
good
see.
example.
Yeah, I would say. I mean, my biggest problem with we went into foreign interference. I think foreign interference in Canada, especially, is such a huge problem. But to your point, I think to sort of elaborate on what you built, we have a big problem in the West where most people go to the polls to vote against someone and not for someone.
Exactly.
And that's a problem, right? People were voting against Trump. Yeah, people voted for Trump, or a lot of people, Trump got it won because people were voting against Hillary, or against the Democrats, or against this, and people are voting to stop Trump. And a lot of, I think a lot of the conservative party like fell into this in 2019, 2021. Like, if you don't vote for me, Justin Trudeau's going to be there, and like
Yeah.
it's either me or Trudeau, and you're like,
Yeah, I
well,
just think it
which,
would help with some of that polarization. It would decrease some of that where
yeah,
people are just acting in that way, and it would focus people more on the issues rather than the people that represent either side. So
yeah,
anyway, we'll move on from that as well. Do you like hockey at all?
love it.
Yeah, even watching the playoffs?
Ja, Leafs, alle shalom,
Oh,
Chamen
come on, let's
Shabbat.
say some prayers for them. Yeah, totally. So okay, so that's to do with the coronation. Do you know who Steven Crowder is?
Yeah.
Did you see what happened recently with his divorce? And did you check? Did you happen to see the video of him abusing his wife or whatever? What's going on with him right now?
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't look good. I mean, I saw it. Like, I don't want to, I don't want to publicly get into someone's marriage. Like, my thing is, I was thinking to tweet, but I figured not. Like, I would, if I was Stephen Crowder's friend, I would advise him to not make anything around his divorce public. Like, tone
Yeah,
it down. Like, if someone
yeah.
leaked a thing, just don't respond to it.
He
Like,
already
don't be
he already
threatening to release.
has though. He's gotten so deep. Hey, he made that video where he's like he was already like, oh my marriage is ending. He's already gone so deep that it's like, can he
Exactly.
turn back?
And that's all I'd say. It's like, you
Yeah,
know,
you should stop.
there might be 5 hours of footage that would totally exonerate him and put that in a brand new perspective.
Yeah,
And I don't know. And like maybe his wife is just crazy, and maybe
yeah,
he's crazy
yeah.
and
But
like
nobody will
abusive
watch
and like
that.
a child. I don't know. And if I was his friend, I would say like, listen, Stephen, just don't say anything because it's only going to hurt you. Like, there's no winning by making this public.
Yeah,
Like, okay, yeah, you might clear your name, but then you screw over your wife and you bring your kids into it, and then the amount of public, the amount you'll have to drag your family through the public to clear your own name. Like, at some point, like this is where you got to like sort of like be a man, Stephen, and just take the bullshit the world throws at you for the greater good here, and suck one
yeah.
up.
And
And
realize that,
like,
okay, great, you've got 6 million YouTube followers because you were addicted to Adderall for 4 years, and just fucking chill. You got a divorce. Relax. It's a speed bump. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, that's good on that. So I was hoping before we end the show, because this has been a great episode so far, is there any insights you can give us? All of us, all of our, we're all fans of you and Ben. Having met Ben when he came and did the podcast was just amazing. He's such a personality, and it's like just yeah, it's insane to hear him talk for a little while and all the cool stuff he has to say about politics and all that, and how he kind of makes it hilarious as he's doing it, and he's great at impressions. But my question is what kind of insight can you give any of us for what are the skits you have coming up for this mayoral thing, or any other ideas you guys have for what you might do for skits, like
okay,
comedy?
yeah, there's a couple, there's a couple written, filmed, but the audio messed up, so it has to be reshot. I'm not
Yeah,
sure if
Ben
there
said
was a
something
Toronto
about that.
Sun
Yeah.
article. If you saw the Toronto Sun article, and Ben has a new Pride suit, so
Yes.
we have some pretty killer. We're gonna Toronto's obsessed with bike lanes and all this. We're get ready for our take on the bike lanes and how we're gonna save the world. Of course, education is important in everyone's mind. Like, we do have an education platform. It is very super serious and will solve all the problems that your kids are having, probably by just making them trans. And
Then they won't want to
you
ride a
know,
bike, and they'll just want to
we
stay home and look at
today
anime.
I turned to Ben today as we were. I said, I like the thing you said to Warmington. I'm like, I think you've said it before. Like, a new semi slogan we're going to bring out is clinics, clinics, clinics. Right? You've got a problem. We got clinics, clinics, clinics. You're a bit sad. We got a maid clinic. Kill yourself.
Kill
Right?
yourself. Cut off your
Right?
dick.
Oh,
Take
you're
some
feeling a bit
pills.
adventurous. Go to a gender clinic. Cut it off. Put it back on. Right? Switch it up. Or a vaccine clinic. Right? Just get vaccinated, cut your dick off, and then kill yourself. This is
Yeah.
Toronto, everyone.
Yeah.
Right? So, and then maybe get some fentanyl or safe injection sites, like injection site / vaccine clinic / maid clinic / gender clinic,
Yeah.
right? All in one. Maybe a roulette thing. Like, oh, Ben will love this. Online gambling, you can go into the thing and you spin the wheel, and at the clinic, and it's like vaccine, drugs, maid, dicks got cut off, and then it's like, whoa, and then it rolls, and then you do that, and
Yeah.
then you have a great time.
Everybody loves roulette.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got two last quick things. Sorry. So to do with the town hall, did you happen to watch it or just see clips?
Jesse clips. I'm
Okay.
not going to subject myself to more. Like, if Trump's the nominee and doing it again, we'll get back into it. But like, I don't want to get my hopes up that we get 4 more years of the Trump nonsense, because that was super fun. Like, for me, like political commentary, like it was great.
Exactly.
I just like I've seen it before. I don't care. I know what Trump's going to say. I know what CNN's going to say. It's funny, like, but I don't know. Maybe the Western world needs Trump to be quiet and let Ron DeSantis take over the world.
Maybe. I mean, the vote's going to decide it, right? That's what voting is for, I guess. But this one's going to be interesting because I wonder what kind of crazy things are going to happen around controlling this whole thing so that the public trusts this time that it wasn't fake, or people weren't running around putting in 28 votes at different voting stations and all that. The stuff that Trump has been claiming that caused his fake loss. I wonder
Yeah,
what kind of controls they're going to put in place this time.
I think they're just going to try and gaslight. Like, I think this is the media thing. Is like, I think they'll want to gaslight and like kind of poke the bear and poke the Trumpies to say election scam, because like I don't think this is a winning narrative for Trump. The vote is fixed against me is not a winning narrative, right? Talking about how much you lost and how you lost isn't a display of strength to put it bluntly, and and the media likes having this narrative to push that, oh, Trump are election deniers, even though they spent 4 years denying the 2016 election, and Hillary Clinton's still out there pretending she's president of the world. So
Yeah.
I don't see any real safeguards. I see more gaslighting, and I see both sides being ridiculous, and society and social cohesion breaking down, because that's what
Okay.
we do now. It's just we can't have nice things,
Okay.
right?
Fair enough.
We live
Fair
in a
enough.
world where everyone either believes Ukraine isn't real or biology isn't real. There's two people left. Just pick one. You're either one or the other, and like that's just the world we live in now.
That's such a funny way to put it. Okay. So to be specific, did you happen to see any clips on? So this was near the end of the town hall when Trump was talking about Ukraine versus Russia. Did you happen to see any of that and his take on that?
Yeah, I mean, he's trying to straddle the fence and like appease his thing is like, I disagree. Like again, I think no, like my big thing is like no one understands foreign policy, and like just saying, oh, I want peace and we got to talk about peace. It's like, well, yeah, I want peace too, but you don't get peace with the Russians by being a bunch of pussies and letting them do whatever they want. You get peace by saying, no, you can't invade sovereign nations. And if you do, bad things happen. So then they're like, okay, we're not going to do it, right?
And you don't think he
So
was saying that? I thought he was saying that.
like he was kind of making the thing like he wasn't committed. He wasn't strong. Like the thing with Trump though, he is great on foreign policy. When the things Trump does, A plus on foreign policy, A plus. The things Trump says on foreign policy, like D minus.
Hmm.
And the things Biden does on foreign policy, F minus, minus, F triple minus.
Yeah.
The things he says on foreign policy, like B plus, right? So it becomes a thing of like, what can you say except on Iran? Then it's like F minus. So you know what, Biden, take him down to a C plus, right? So it's like this war of like, okay, what's more important, the rhetoric or the action? And I think the action, like when it comes to how the Saudis and their allies see us, and like the actions are far more important. Like basically Obama 2.0, Biden, Obama, they lost the rest of the world. No one respects American power anymore. They completely destroyed themselves. There's just a bunch of woke Europeans who like kind of, because of the Russians and on their border, like on one single issue, sort of on Ukraine, like somewhat serious. But other than that, they're not serious on anything, and they're a complete disaster and fantastical thinking,
For
right?
sure.
Whereas Trump had some nonsense rhetoric sometimes, but when it came to like strong deter America first in foreign policy, right? Energy sector, have a vibrant economy, have economic leverage, right? Tit for tat, right? If you attack us, we attack you. You cooperate with us, we cooperate with you. And that's a very good foreign policy, and like that brought the
Well,
Saudis back in
yeah.
line.
Well, it seems like what he was implying was that with him, or that he would have that with the situation where the East and the West were technically united on saying, "Hey, Ukraine, chill out. Russia needs to do this, this, and this." He said that they wouldn't have fought back so much and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, who knows if that's true or not, right? I guess it's all hypotheticals, and that's politics, right? They always play on the hypotheticals and say that, "Oh,
I
the
mean,
grass would have been greener over here."
Trump's best thing would be if I was advising Trump, I would say this is what you need to say on Ukraine. Like you need to say there's a reason why Putin invaded Ukraine under Obama and Putin invaded Ukraine under Biden and didn't do it under me, because I wouldn't have let it happen. I
Yeah.
understand foreign policy, and I understand how these people work, and I understand American power, and I was able to leverage American power to make the world a safer place, as it should be. And because Biden and Obama and these people don't respect America, they don't love America, they don't see America as the number one priority, they're able to walk all over us. And if I was president, this would never happen. And you've seen that. You saw I made all these peace deals. And that's what I would say is like, just go with it. Yeah, it's completely unproven, but just go with the rhetoric of like, I would have kept the Russians in line. Like the Russians wouldn't have done this. Every time that
For
you
sure.
vote Democrats, they invade Ukraine.
Yeah.
Right?
And
That's
that's
the
why
last
you're
thing you
such a
do.
good political advisor, for sure. Okay,
Yeah.
so last thing, and we will call this an episode, would just be I wanted to get a reminder on the carbon tax and Pierre Poilievre saying that like if he gets into power that he is going to cancel all of it and all that kind of stuff. So in terms of the environment, I wanted to get a reminder on what your opinion is on that. So climate
Oh, the
change.
carbon tax?
So no,
Nuke
no,
it.
no, no,
Nuke it.
not carbon tax in particular. So I like to
Oh,
talk in generalities and kind of in macro.
okay.
In terms of
Okay.
climate
So
change,
my thing. So
what do you
climate
think?
change. Go. Right. So here's the thing. I think we have serious, we'll say, environmental problems that the world needs to solve. There are major environmental problems, right? You cannot cut down all the rainforest, right? You need them for whatever. There are power plants and whatever that pollute rivers. Some rivers are polluted. You have eutrophication, which is like, the farming runoff going to the water, creating the algae, kills it because of what. There are serious ecological problems that we need to solve, and they're complicated, but we can solve them. My problem is, though, we take all these different problems. We take, let's say a couple dozen, we take 20 different complex problems. We amalgamate them into one thing. We call that climate change or global warming. And then we have the audacity to say, on these global agreements and the whatever, where people get mad, the sustainable development goals, WEF, all this nonsense, right? They then say we need to cut carbon emissions. So we have this amalgamation of multiple complex problems, which is a scientific problem, which is a problem itself, right? And then we say, well, we're going to do a univariate analysis on this, which is another insane thing. So like one variable, we're not taking 3, 4, it's like carbon emissions, right? Carbon up, down, like that determines the climate change. And then we say anything, we're just going to declare anything that we can say gets rid of carbon is good. But it becomes so insane because if this is actually what you believe, then you should throw a coup and reinstate Donald Trump as prime minister of the world. Because the only country that met the Paris Climate Accords carbon emission stuff was America from 2016 to 2020.
Yeah.
And that's because all the anti-carbon stuff doesn't do it. Because by deregulating natural gas is more efficient than oil, which is more efficient than coal, right? And the more efficient something is, the better it burns, the less waste there is. What's waste? Pollution, waste, emissions, they're all the same word. They're all the same thing.
Can I just
right?
can I just interject for a quick second?
Yeah.
Because for me, my biggest frustration with it is that the government primarily implies in any way, shape, or form that should fall on the little guy, like all of us, like the carbon tax. That it's insane to pretend like us, like that we need to contribute financially and that it needs to change our utility bills, because if it was an issue, stop, like just shut up about climate change. Once it becomes enough of an issue, let's change all of the like stop all the coal plants, leave the petroleum, leave the natural gas, leave the geo, just get us nuclear power plants everywhere, and then it's fixed. Like us little guys, we do not need to be involved in that whatsoever.
Yeah, the anti-nuclear angle of the environmental movement is insane.
It's
Like
annoying. It kills me.
yeah, anyone who's anti-nuclear and says green energy,
As
like
an idiot.
deport them.
They're an
They
idiot.
need to be sent to North Korea.
Yeah.
I have no patience. Like I don't. Oh, the civil liberties don't care. Like North Korea, gulag, straight up, 3 generations of punishment.
So yeah.
Yeah, but it's like I understand your point. Your point
Yeah,
is
for sure.
valid, and it's screwing over everyone's
Yeah.
pocketbook.
So yeah, put a bow on it for us, and and we'll call this an
My
episode. My man.
wider point is, even if that could work, it still can't. Like
Yeah.
not only are we doing that to the little guy and making you pay for it,
Yeah.
it's also making you pay for something that any serious analysis would say could not work. And
Exactly.
there's countervailing evidence to say that it's actually not the right way to go.
It's just paying salaries. It's
yeah, and like a gas example is not is a the economic term is inelastic good. They're elastic goods, right? If the price of a movie ticket goes up 300% tomorrow, you might not see the new Guardians of the Galaxy movie because it might not be worth it.
great movie, by the way, dude. I did see it, and wow, what a movie!
I haven't seen it yet, but I will. Okay, but again, it's good. But there's a price that movie could have been that you say, okay, that's too much because it's an elastic good. You can replace it with something else. Maybe I'll watch something on Netflix. Whatever. An inelastic good is one that doesn't change with demand doesn't change with price. Energy, right? People still need to go from point A to point B. Like truck drivers need to make their deliveries. Like they need to put the gas in the car. They need to go from here to there. Like, people need to go from point A to point B. All the food needs to go to point A to point B. Like this isn't something that you can tax and therefore reduce demand. Like unless you're saying, oh, if we just increase the price of gas so much, there'll be a struggling family of 4 where the father and mother will have to sell their car and then bike 45 minutes to work every day, or like 4 hours of biking every day. And yay, the environment, they can no longer see their kids because they're really poor. We did it. We turned this family like that's the thought process here when you break down what the carbon tax
it is. You're 100% right. Let's make them poor until they all have to bike.
That's literally And Trudeau said it, like not in those things, but Trudeau finally admitted that taxes are a form of deterrence. And it's like, yeah, okay, so you're going to make it too expensive for people to drive
They all say
cars, and
that.
like,
All left wing people, all the left wing people that I debate, all say that. They say that those types of things are meant to be incentives, and yeah, for sure, for sure. All right, Daniel. Well, I just want to say thank you very much, man. It's been a good episode, and you're
appreciate
sharp as
you having
always,
me
dude.
back.
What's that?
I appreciate you having me back.
Yeah, definitely. And that'll be Canadian Talk, episode 63 out. Thanks for listening, and any questions or concerns for the show, as well as voice recordings and voice messages that you'd like us to listen to, or advertisement inquiries, please forward those along to CanadianTalkWithStephan@gmail.com. Thanks. We also have a website, Stephanjackson.ca, where you can find a back catalog of all our episodes, and we're also on YouTube, where you can find the video versions.